Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Dr. Kim Sei-wan, professor of economics at Ewha Womans University. Professor Kim, good afternoon and thank you for coming on.
Good afternoon, Devin.
Well, tech stocks on Wall Street saw a recovery overnight, the so-called three-day rule applying apparently, so the sell-off came to an end. What's the story in the global markets?
Global stock market is roller coastering these days due to the widened gap between real economic activities and booming stock market prices. We take 1% stock return changes in a day for granted these days after outbreak of coronavirus, but this 1% changes in a day is such a huge change in normal situation. In yesterday's U.S. stock market, there was a big gain after 3 days of big drops. Dow Jones Industrial increased 1.6%, and NASDAQ particularly increased up to 2.7% in a day.
Right, and Korean stocks higher today as well, especially the tech-heavy KOSDAQ. What happened in the Korean markets?
U.S. market gave a positive impact on domestic market today, particularly on high-tech related KOSDAQ market. KOSPI increased by 0.9%, and KOSDAQ also increased by 1.7% today. In KOSPI market, domestic individual investors and foreign investors together bought stocks, but unusually, domestic institutional investors sold the stock. On the other hand, KOSDAQ market is dominated by individual investors' purchase. On the other side, foreign investors and domestic institutional investors sold KOSDAQ stocks. So in the next 2 weeks, we have pay more attention on market volatility because market volatility has been structurally increased these days.
Well, now in the news today, Professor, we have President Moon unveiling the government's fourth budget, lots of spending plans in the works. What do you make of these new budgets and the proposed projects?
The second round state relief funds target small business owners and troubled families who are the most affected by pandemic. Discussions are underway to identify the most damaged small business owners and families. So more comprehensive plan for the second round cash out program will be announced sometime in the next week. And in terms of stimulating domestic spending, I think it would be better for selective payment like government's plan today, because the lower income people spends more from government's cash support.
Right, that's a good point. And now we do see that Korean households borrowed a lot more money in August compared to July. Loans were up by almost $10 billion, which is a record increase. Tell us about that.
Commercial banks' household loan increased by the largest amount on record in August. And this is mainly for rising housing prices, including 전세 price, and a continuing rally in stock market. Bank loans to households came to almost 950 trillion won as of end of August. And it is almost 12 trillion won increase from previous month and the largest monthly growth since 2004. Household loan gains are related to buying and renting homes, price increases, and non-mortgage loan is related to meet demand for stock investment and livelihood spending.
Right, and last month we see that Korea saw yet more job losses. 6 months in a row now, the number of people working has been lower than a year ago, and this doesn't yet reflect the tighter social distancing of the last few weeks. What stands out to you in these jobs numbers?
Korean economy lost 274,000 jobs last month. And this downward trend is continued for 6 straight months, which means it is the most protracted downturn in employment since 2008 global financial crisis. The unemployment rate increased by 0.1% up to 3.1% in August. And since there is a resurgence of pandemic and level 2 social distancing is adopted, the September employment data is expected to heavily reflect the effects of stronger social distance nationwide.
We'll have to see how those numbers look the next time around. All right, Professor, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.